I'm afraid we're going to be dealing with some comedians here. I've rehearsed what we're going to be doing with them, and they kept me in stitches. This is a great opportunity. I'm looking at today as an opportunity for you to be involved in living history, okay? How many of you know how long ago World War II was? One of the students, if you know. How long ago was it? 1945. Today is 2014. How many years is that? Carry them out. How many? How about 69? Wow. 69 years since World War II was over. All three of these gentlemen fought in World War II. You've met, well, you've heard their names. This is Sy Young, Coach Young. Don Branch. And Clayton Tuggle. Tom Brokaw describes these men as America's greatest generation. Were it not for the courage and the willingness to stand for freedom and democracy, we might not be right here today. I'm going to serve as a moderator, and I'm going to ask questions, and my job is kind of play goalie, just to keep them in the room, okay? But we're going to begin with the first question of, what were you doing when the war started in 1941? I'm going to start with Mr. Tuggle. Clayton, what were you doing in 1941?
I was trying to go through college.
Hold your microphone a minute.
Oh, I was trying to go through college.
Okay. All right. Don, what were you doing in 1941?
Honestly, I can't remember, but I'm sure I was trying to...
Okay, you were in high school. We covered this earlier today. Coach, what were you doing in 1941?
I was struggling to buy another meal and coaching football and all other sports, including girls volleyball in St. Joe, Texas, St. Joe Panthers.
Go Panthers. Very good. Thank you. How did the war change the face of industry here in the United States? Clayton, how did it change things? Men were generally doing the work and women were generally at home before that. What changed?
What changed was that all the men wound up going to war who were of any age, like say under 35 or thereabouts. And the women had to go to work to build all the airplanes and everything else, the ships and all those things. And as a result, the women found out they could hold down a good paying job. So they sort of left home after that, whenever the war was over, and went out and got themselves jobs. Before that, women generally stayed home and raised the kids. And we're still trying to figure out which one's best.
This was the time, you may have seen pictures of this, students. Rosie the Riveter, that was the icon for World War II, where women went into industry. And Rosie she was wearing a short sleeve shirt, and she had her hair up in a bandana, and she was kind of showing off her muscles. And it was the idea that women can work in industry as well as men. Don, I got a question. When the war broke out, could you just go down to the grocery store and buy whatever you wanted, or maybe if you needed a new tire, just go pick one up? How were things different then than today?
Extremely limited.
Okay, in what ways?
You could not go and purchase whatever you might want. You would have to get sufficient approval and or some method of purchasing whatever you need.
Okay. Coach, did you ever have a ration book?
A ration book?
Yes, sir.
No, I didn't have one. My mother and dad had one.
Okay.
And
What could you get with a ration book?
Well, you'd buy so many groceries and it'd shut you off.
Okay?
You just buy so much, you can buy so much, so many gallons of gas, and they'll shut you off.
Okay?
So you get half full or whole full, whatever it is, happen to be, that's when you got to restock.
Okay? Very good. Rations, students, you would get a coupon booklet that had little tickets in it, and it would allow you to buy certain items that we just take for granted today. We just, if you want to buy gasoline, you go to the service station, buy gasoline. You were limited to a certain number of gallons at a time, and when you ran out, you ran out. Things like tires for your car, they were not available because all the rubber was being shipped over for the war effort. Explain what you remember about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which immediately caused the United States to enter into the World War. Clayton, what do you remember about the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941?
It was a Sunday morning, and we got back from church, and they were all talking about the fact that the Pearl Harbor had been bombed by the Japanese, and nobody knew exactly what that was going to be. We had been reluctant to go into the war at all, even with Europe or Japan, but we figured, well, with a bloody nose like that, we really had no choice. And so we started out from really a low, for those of you who are mature, a low place in our military. We had worn down, we'd just been through a big depression, and we had cut everything we could cut, which is what we're doing today. And that's maybe where we're going, but it's still in all, that's what was happening back there. And so we didn't know exactly how it was going to happen, but if you were somewhere between 15 and 20, you begin to worry really hard.
Don, what do you remember about December the 7th, 1941? You were in high school, weren't you?
Not quite.
Grade school.
You were in high school this morning, Don.
Kindergarten.
My concern was that my dad was going to have to go off to war.
Ah, okay.
And of course, I'd read a great deal about the war. And the bottom line is a lot of folks are losing their lives. And it concerned me a great deal. So I learned to pray.
Okay.
And I prayed hard. But the first thing that happened was that I ended up going.
Okay.
But it was an interesting event.
Coach, what were you doing on December the 1st, 1941?
December the 1st. December the 1st.
Excuse me, December 7th. See, he's up to speed. What were you doing on the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed?
I was in the first year of teaching, coaching in St. Joe, Texas. And usually on a Sunday morning, all the teachers would congregate down in one of them's apartment deal and have coffee and visit. That's the only entertainment they had in the town I was in. And then they announced it on the radio. They always had the radio over there where everybody could listen whether they wanted to or not. And they announced that. And the minute they started looking around, well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Will we have a teaching job tomorrow? Will we be out of our work, or will we be gone to the Navy or Army or Air Force? And everybody was guessing, wondering what was going to happen next. And sure enough, it wasn't. Just a few days, things did change.
It changed dramatically, students. If you can imagine, a couple of weeks before Christmas, things changed completely. All three of these men were enlisted not too long after that, and they served during World War II. What were you doing? Oh, well, we covered that. But how old were you, Clayton, in 1941?
How old?
Mm-hmm.
How old was I?
Yes.
19.
19. 19 years of age, okay?
Yeah.
How old were you, Mr. Branch?
17.
17 years of age. Coach, how old were you in 1941?
21.
21.
Yeah,
17, 19, and 21, guys.
I was old man.
Yeah, you were the elder. You're the elder statesman, weren't you? Now, Mr. Tuggle, what branch did you serve in?
Well, I was in the Army, but we were assigned to the tanks, big tanks, and that was the division of the Army that we were in.
Okay. And you served in the South Pacific, correct?
Yes, we were eventually into what we called amphibious vehicles, which were on sea and on land at the same time, basically. But we really didn't have a choice where we were going there. We were just assigned, you go here, buddy. You know, here's your staff. You know, we'll tell you where you're going after a while, that sort of thing. And we had no choice about where we went. We just went. And that's where I wound up.
Okay. Mr. Branch, what branch were you in? What branch of service were you in, Don?
The Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. He was a leatherneck, jarhead. Right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Coach, what branch of the service were you in?
Navy.
He was in the Navy. Okay. How did your family react to you going to war, Clayton?
Well, I think my mom cried a lot. I'm not sure about my dad, but it was an inevitable thing. As a matter of fact, you were somewhat embarrassed if you did not get drafted. That said that you were not really very good, very well off physically. So you did not want to be a 4F. And so actually, many of the people at that time who were liable for that draft were actually, they went down and joined what they wanted to do. If they wanted to be a Marine, basically they went there. If you didn't do that, you wound up in the Army. So the Navy, the Marines, they went down and volunteered so that they got a choice as to where they served.
Okay. All right. Mr. Branch, how did your family react to you going to war?
Well, they did a lot of praying,
Okay.
and I cried.
Okay.
No, it was not so.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Coach, how did your family react to you going to war?
Well, we were family oriented, and we fell for each other, and they hated to see me leave. And they always in the back of their mind of will he be coming back? And I was the only one in my family that served in the military. And one of them was in my two brothers were in defense plants before the war broke out. So they didn't get drafted. And then my sister was living in Bowie and was married. And her husband was an electrician and worked for the city. And he didn't get drafted, and I think he was too old anyway. But it changed. The world changed.
Sure did.
Complete turnover.
Mr. Tuggle, were there young men who were not old enough to be in the Army or the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, that enlisted anyway? And if they did, how did they do that?
Well, there were various ways, and yes, they were. After being bombed as we were, that was a pretty big insult to this country. And it came together like I have never seen it before. I mean, everybody was working to make it work, and like the women were building tanks and airplanes and automobiles and all these kinds of things. But the guys who, most of them graduated from high school, but as soon as they did, they went out and they tried again. And you had to be 18 to get in, but I believe it was. And if you were 16 and your parents said, okay, you can go, then they would have to sign a piece of paper and you could go down